have such sights to show you.
We're Poppin the Scary horror podcast here. I'm your host, Coale, and with me as always, I have my good friend and co-host, Aaron.
Whip, nay.
Now watch me whip.
Yeah.
Now watch me nay.
Whoa.
That just as soon as you said that, it reminded me of the Robotnik picture of Jim Carrey where he puts his hand out. Have you seen that?
I don't think so.
Well, now I thought that's what you were referencing because I know we were talking. Yeah, like it was promo art. Let me see, Dr. Robotnik, nay.
I love that. That's a Google search on your phone.
I know, right? Here.
There
it is. Yeah. No. Now watch me whip. Now watch me nay. Yeah. So that's some image that popped in my mind. I think I saw it on a Twitter. It's like he looks like he's about to pop the strongest nay of all time, or sickest, something like that. But anyway, so that was a great introduction there.
And trying to mix it up,
Yeah, of course. And so I'm pretty excited about this episode, diving into it specifically, especially since we're watching An American Werewolf in London, which I learned after the episode whenever I was trying to tease it. You had never heard about it before whatsoever. So it's pretty. I'm pretty excited. But before we dive into the movie itself, because obviously you don't have any history with it, with werewolves specifically, this is actually our first werewolf movie we're watching for the podcast, which it feels sacrilegious, I guess, to watch this movie over like the Wolfman, since it's like the original Wolfman movie. But this one was just like, I think this fits good, because students are traveling and stuff, and that's actually what the film focuses on, is two students traveling specifically. So, like those traveling the world trips they do in college and stuff.
Sure.
So it's around this time of year.
Across Europe.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So okay. That's why I wanted to choose this film. So
is the real enemy of the Americans actually their white privilege?
Absolutely.
Personified as a werewolf. Yeah,
of course. But I was going to ask, what is your overall thoughts and feelings on the werewolf mythos?
I mean, it's just one of those classic monster things. You got werewolves, you got vampires, you got zombies, you got those sorts of things. I feel like werewolves have been fairly underexplored in the modern. Like, when was the last time a werewolf movie came out? I mean, like, there's Twilight, but I guess beyond that, where's something that focuses on werewolves? Werewolves seem to just be like in the background of things, versus like, we were just talking about Morbius. We got vampires out here.
Yeah, vampires are everywhere for sure.
We got zombies everywhere. There's all kinds of other creatures that are like long-term mythos that get popped around. We don't really see a lot of vampires. We don't really see a lot of werewolves anymore.
No, not really. It's funny because growing up, I always thought that werewolves were pretty cool. And in fact, whenever I was younger, do you remember the stretch screamers? Like the ones where you'd grab it and you stretch it. It's kind of like the equivalent of like our Stretch Armstrong that they would have and stuff. But it was like all these horror icons, and you stretch it and it go.
It's just like an action figure thing, like a doll that you
Yeah, it was like a doll specifically, and then they would have like a ball of like liquid and then like a hole, so whenever you squeezed it, it like pussed out there specifically. I'm trying to see if I can find a picture for Aaron, but I was obsessed with these things. Like, completely obsessed. Oh, yeah, this is the one I had right here.
Right there?
Yeah. And so, basically, this one specifically had a hole in its side where you scream, and it was, like, yellow ball of, like, liquid. But they had, like, loads of these overall. They even had, like, McDonald's toys of them. So, yeah. So that was pretty much, like, one of my first exposures to the werewolf there. And so I pretty much agree with you. I think it's definitely an interesting idea to explore that you don't really get to see movies explore too terribly much there. And so while this film isn't The Wolfman, I also feel like since I've seen it already once, I feel like this will be a fair introduction to werewolves. Like I said, you've had seen them before, but mostly in the background of other movies, and stuff. But since you don't really have too much to add on, your thoughts and everything on American Werewolf in London, because this is like kind of you going in blind and stuff. I'll tell the audience basically my relation to this. This was a film. Whenever I was really like looking into horror movies to watch, like, what to watch and everything, this is one I kept like hearing pop up every now and again. And so it was one of those like, I'll add it on the list, watch it later. And I just kept putting it off, not because like of anything else. It's just one of those things like, I'll get to it later. And it just keeps cycling through all the movies you watch specifically. And then finally I was like, you know what? I really want to watch this movie. So I borrowed a copy from my friend, and needless to say, without going into too much spoilers, I did like the film, since I've already given hints that I feel like this is a good introduction, everything else, and I just bought the 4K from Arrow Video.
Whoa!
Yeah,
Shouts out to Arrow Video.
Yeah, exactly. They're a very cool company that comes out with cool re-releases of movies and helps remaster them.
A lot of rees.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the werewolf noise, right?
Yeah. Dio. But yeah, I mean, aside from that, I don't really have too much else to say, because I don't want to get. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, you got something.
Cole had me listen to the London Werewolf song.
Oh yeah, Werewolves of London.
Werewolves of London. Oh, and I guess I had heard it before. I said last time I've never heard of this song at all. And I have heard it, but I always just thought it was Sweet Home Alabama playing in the background, and there was just some woo,
Yeah, I know.
Because it goes the dun 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 dun, and I was thinking like it was 1983.
Yeah.
But that's a different song.
It's like the equivalent of Under Pressure and Ice Baby.
Yeah, I never know which one it is. I didn't even know there were two different songs. I thought it was all Sweet Home Alabama.
Yeah, absolutely. So I tried to throw you hints and stuff, but I was not helping you. You were, so I just had to do charades.
I'm in the dark.
Yeah, exactly.
The only thing that could shed some light on me is a full moon.
You took my line. I was going to do that.
I yoinked it. I'm a sneaky little werewolf.
Yes, let's all right, Wolfie. Okay. So we'll be back, folks, whenever we watch 1981's An American Werewolf in London. Ow! Werewolves of London.
Home Alabama.
Hello, Governor.
And we just came back across seas. Thanks for listening to this episode, guys. Be sure to stay tuned for the next episode.
I was all like, ow! Sorry, we gotta get sexual, because that movie was sexual.
Yeah.
There was more dong in that movie than a grandfather clock. It was like, ding, dong, ding.
We just watched An American Werewolf in London.
A stretch. Like how his hand stretched when he turned into a werewolf.
Let's talk about that movie, huh?
Yeah.
So, without getting to the nitty-gritty of spoilers and stuff, overall general thoughts coming from this movie.
That was a movie. That was a movie that... Should we give a little context first? Just like a quick intro, what the movie's about.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'll just say you will withhold your statement at the current moment.
Yes.
All right. So, for peeps that don't know exactly what An American Werewolf in London is about, it's about two college students that are basically backpacking across Europe, wanting to get a feel of the land, and so they're yes, exactly.
Feel the moors.
And so they're in England, and whenever they're going across England, they come across this bar which they hope to stay at since it's like laid out, and it's from there that they start to notice that the people in the bar they're a little wary of outsiders specifically. And so it's from that point on whenever they realize that the people that are acting off and superstitious is for a very good reason, as they will later find out. So that's pretty much how the film starts, and from that point on, without spoiling too much, there is indeed a werewolf that is encountered there. So we won't. I suppose it's like one of those weird things where we could talk about the film, but then we have to skip over certain points while talking about it.
Right. I don't know how you wanted to handle that, because there's an important info bomb at the beginning, but I don't know. Yeah,
it's going to be like one of the weird things overall, because something happens at the beginning of the film which I'm sure you weren't expecting.
Yeah. I guess so.
Yeah, just kind of like one of those, kind of expecting it, kind of not.
Just wondering how we talk about some of the other characters later on without explaining what happens in the beginning.
Man, this is a weird one. Okay. So this is going to be kind of like a weird, not non-spoiler, spoiler section. I think we're going to have to kind of have 0 spoilers and then light spoilers.
Okay.
And then
so we can tier it. Okay.
Yeah, tier it a little bit.
0 spoiler section, light spoiler section, and then the actual spoiler section. Okay, I like that.
Yeah. We'll just gradually walk into it there.
So this is layer 1 of the onion. This is the no spoilers.
Yeah.
That's all the context you need for the no spoilers section. My general thoughts to the movie. It was a fun 80s monster flick. There was the script writing was awful. The acting was, they found a guy that was willing to play the lead role for such a low amount of money, I'm sure, and was also willing to hang dong repeated times for that amount of money. And that was the lead actor.
Do you know who wrote the film?
My cousin.
No. It is John Landis.
John Lennon wrote the film. That's why it sucked dick and people got shot.
No.
Like
No. John Landis directed National Lampoon's Animal House, The Blues Brothers, and Trading Places, and Three Amigos, and Coming to America.
Oh.
And I didn't even know this part, but apparently he did the directing for Michael Jackson's music videos for Thriller and Black and White.
Okay, I can see the Thriller kind of deal. Yeah. This sort of monstery theme.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was fun. There was fun to be had. There were scares to be had. There were laughs to be had. Sometimes probably not where they were intended to be.
Yeah.
British people are just funny to me, so. And it was. I had a good time with it, especially. You could just tell the whole script was written by a man. I mean, talk about male gaze, am I right, ladies? Like, without giving too much away, it's just like, oh, super attractive person, and every other line she says is, I find you very attractive, and then they fucking bang, and then it's just her whole point of her character. Anyway.
Yeah. So I would agree with some points there. With me, whenever I went into the film initially, I had zero idea on what I was going to get, and I was definitely surprised by a lot of the scenes that happen in the film. I was definitely not prepared for, but it just kind of blew my mind because I can't really name a lot of films I've seen act like this unless it was like specifically like just a comedy, period.
Yeah, that's fair.
Specifically.
Just like sort of the way they pull the rug out from under you.
Yes, exactly. So like I found that very impressive overall whenever it came to that. So having like those different tonal shifts there, because I felt like the film could be genuinely creepy or not like horrifying and stuff, but definitely a bit scary. a little bit. So I felt like that was good. But also the comedy, whether intentional and non-intentional in some areas, I felt like there was a lot of laughs to be had, specifically. I especially feel like the two main actors were introduced to, David and Jack. They have really good banter with themselves at the very beginning of the film that I felt like just sounded natural.
I love their chemistry, honestly. They were, I feel like a lot of those scenes were just not scripted. They were like, all right, say these lines and then just like pound around. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of fun to be had. And so focusing on the plot overall, again, it's kind of hard to focus it. So what we'll do is, I guess we'll do a two-parter to the plot where basically we talk about just the plot vaguely, and then people that don't mind a little bit of spoilers, like diving a little further in, we'll kind of talk about more of the surprises that happen towards the beginning of the film.
Right.
And then whenever we get to heavy spoilers, that's going to be kind of us talking about the ending and
the entire thing,
yes, exactly. So focusing on story, like keeping it fairly light, I felt like it was good. I felt like it flowed as it needed to, specifically there. Maybe had like a few moments that had a little too much breather, but really I felt like it had a good like pace to it there, like moved around.
Yeah, overall I thought the pacing was fine. Yeah, throughout
So,
the entire movie.
And I do like the concept of like, these two Americans just touring Europe, and they're basically all alone in a foreign land specifically.
I do think the setting that they set up right in the beginning is like perfect for horror, and I also feel like it's relatively untapped.
Yeah.
Like in our entire experience watching movies in this podcast, we have yet to watch one set in the UK, for example, but also just like set in like the sort of like rural wilderness. Like that.
Apparently it was filmed in Wales.
Yeah. Okay. Feels very Welsh, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's there was a lot of sheep right at the very beginning, so you can tell it's Wales.
Yeah. But no, I felt like it was good, and I know you mentioned we had the 4K copy from Arrow, and I felt like they did a really good restored job, because it's especially probably a big jump for me, because whenever I watched it, I borrowed it on DVD, so it was pretty much pretty close night and day difference. Although surprisingly, the DVD wasn't that bad of a restoration copy of it either. But no, the scenery is definitely awesome at the beginning. Like, I love seeing that natural landscape there, specifically just the green rolling hills, and then even whenever they walk up to the small village where they have the slaughtered lamb.
Yeah.
Like, which, by the way, I love the name of that bar and the sign they have out front. No,
it's a sign with a wolf's head on a pike in the front. Really sets the tone for a werewolf movie.
No, it really does. And there's just a lot of stuff I like about the overall just idea and plot, which I guess John Landis had this idea for a while before he was able to do it. Like, I think he started maybe as early as like 1969 or something.
69.
Like writing.
Nice.
Why did I walk into that one? Why did I do that?
I don't know where you're walking. You should be laying down for that.
But yeah, I mean, from where the plot progresses and stuff, and just kind of the overall thoughts and feelings that they have to go through and stuff, I thought it was very well done. I thought it was pretty good. And again, I feel like that's all we could kind of trudge on without hitting some strong points there in the mid-spoilers. First mid-spoilers in the series ever for us.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll jump over to characters, which for me, I thought the characters were all likable. I enjoyed them, and, do I think they're like, best horror characters ever written? No, not necessarily, but I felt like all of them were likable, set the point across, and I was genuinely interested in what happened to them. It wasn't one of those things that I'm like, oh my gosh, I have like zero investment in it. Especially, I think, having, both Jack and David together, specifically, they had really good chemistry with each other, and you felt like they were just like regular bunch of college dudes and stuff, just exploring Europe there. And so David, I thought especially did a good job where he's trying to be more of the reasonable one and Jack's more of the goofball stuff specifically. So it was a very good dynamic, especially whenever it came to talking to other of the locales.
Right.
But they were both funny in their own way specifically, and it had a good sense of charisma about themselves.
Yeah, I agree. And you were kind of along with them on this adventure, and I would say that I feel like their charisma sort of fell off later on in the film for reasons we can dive into. Mid spoilers, but yeah, I mean they were. I really loved that setting right in the beginning and that little town with the slaughtered lamb.
Oh, it's amazing. Like it just had me sold at the very beginning the first time I watched it. Whenever I watched it, I was like engrossed. I'm like, okay, this is awesome. I love that they set up that with the film. And again, just seeing them just naturally explore. And also, small little thing. I love their wardrobe they chose. Like the little puffy jackets, David's bright red one, and then Jack's like olive green. Yeah, they're just like having their big backpacks moving along there.
Like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and they just pop into this pub, and everybody there. I even said it out loud to Cole. I was like, these people look British.
Yeah.
Like not just the clothes they're wearing, the setting, or anything. You just look on their face, and you ever see somebody that just looks British?
No, and I felt like both Jack and David played respectively by Griffith Dune and also David Naughton, who was named David. How about that?
Whoa!
I
double
know.
Dave.
Wow! Double Dave. They did a good job, really just not fitting in, if that makes sense. Like you just feel like they're like the black sheep in the room overall.
Whales, I get it.
Whoa, I didn't even mean that, bro. But no, they do a good job just making themselves feel like they stick out. Just as a couple of good old American boys.
Love me, you're an American boy, take me to the
But it's interesting because I think we could definitely talk about this and their relationship that they have throughout the film.
They're gay.
But it's
their gay relationship.
Yeah, it's super gay.
No, I mean they are happy at the beginning.
No, yeah, exactly. Of course.
Marry and gay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it, and they're in the pound, and they just want to ask, or in the pound, in the pub. They're in the pub in the beginning, and they just want to ask some simple questions. What's that symbol on the wall there? They're American, actually. They didn't say it like that.
Yeah.
And then everybody just stops and looks at them. You felt the uncomfort of being in the slaughtered lamb, and you find yourself in the slaughtered lamb a couple times in the movie, at least. And each time, it's
yeah,
it's
absolutely
uncomfortable. It's a little off.
No, for sure. And like I feel like the entire pub, like whenever they start asking questions, does a really good job of just closing up, and they're like, nope,
right.
You're not one of us, it's best you leave, basically. So
beware the moon, boy.
Yeah, exactly. And I love how superstitious they all are, while also not talking about why they're nervous or uncertain.
I'll just take this moment to say that anything English set should be ripe for horror, especially mythical horror, because that's where a lot of these fairy tales and stuff come, werewolves included, come from ancient lore. And I would love to see more things set, kind of like The Village or some shit, where it's like this rural countryside, don't go into the woods because that's where the fairy queen will murder you type shit, because that's exactly where these fairy tales were created to do, was like, don't go into the woods, kids, because you're gonna fucking die. That's what these original tales were created, and I'd love to see more inspiration from that in horror. But,
yeah, no, I felt like it had a really good vibe to it overall, just like, again, doing that, because we've seen supernatural films and stuff. I don't know if we have too many of the like legend say type horror, like maybe just a few, if any, but for the most part it's been mostly kind of out of nowhere, out of left field, boom, it's there. So I really love that atmosphere.
Even like Nosferatu, was set back in the day in old castles, and there's a creepy count or whatever. That kind of stuff even is just like, why don't we do some more period piece horror? I love The Lighthouse for that reason too. Period piece, it really sets you away and makes you feel isolated, I feel, which is like key to making horror horrific.
No, definitely. And so I feel like it's done very well overall, and just getting to see David and Jack's friendship also kind of have to go through all of this, because their friendship definitely does take a turn specifically. And so it's interesting to see where it goes from there. So I thought that was also very well done overall, because it led to have more questions asked and stuff. So it wasn't just pure kind of, just nonsensical stuff, although we can talk about some stuff that definitely tests that limit.
There's a lot of nonsensical stuff in this movie, actually.
Well, I mean, like...
but yes.
Yeah, you know what I mean specifically there. But character-wise, the two main college boys felt like they did good. Another one I did like, even though, again, I know you mentioned that you feel like she's kind of one note, is Nurse Alex, who you get to meet later in the film. And, while I can't say, oh yeah, one of the strongest females in horror and stuff like that, I also just enjoyed her. I thought she was sweet and nice.
I thought she had a nice presence. I really do. But I can't help to feel like she was cast particularly because it was hot woman nurse willing to show her boobies.
Oh, for sure. Definitely.
And that was the whole point of her, like, even just written bare bones in the script, that was the whole point of her character. It was like, hi, I'm just gonna ask you to my flat for some reason, even though you're a psychotic patient.
Yeah.
We're gonna fuck.
Yeah, no, I can definitely, I won't argue with that bullet point there, but at the same time, I still feel like she's a likable character, which is definitely good. Like, even though she did end up feeling like one note sometimes, she was pleasant to watch, pleasant to hear, and I was just like, oh yeah, I don't mind seeing what she's doing there. So, definitely major kudos to Jenny Agutter, who played her specifically. So
she did a good job with the role she was given. I think the flaws in the role is my criticism, but
yeah, for sure, definitely. And then even John Woodvine, who you see later in the film, play the doctor that you meet later on, Dr. Hirsch. I felt like he was also pretty good. Again, more solid note, kind of more plot dependent.
One note kind of guy, yeah.
There, but I did like his phone bit he had specifically when people are trying to call him.
Oh yeah, it's like, just tell him I'm dead.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So again, it's one of those things that you're not going to find the deepest characters, not nothing where it's like, oh man, what are they psychologically, what does it mean? And so it's a weird thing to kind of go from The Lighthouse, where we had to dissect everything, to this one where there's not that much to dissect, which is not a bad thing. Like I said, I think it makes for a fun, scary film.
Right. And the kind of stuff that they put in there that you could dissect, they then like immediately ham-fisted. And I can't really give you...
Yeah, trust me, because I went through the same emotions you did the first time round. So it was kind of interesting.
I feel like great horror, or great movies in general, will just sprinkle in like a little detail that you could think about and then discuss later and be like, oh yeah, and this point really hinted, foreshadowed, or whatever. This time they were like, they did that, and then they would just like look directly at the camera, like Jim. They didn't literally do this. But this is what it felt like, like just Jim to the camera, and they were like, I'm setting up this for later.
I can see that.
And just like, okay.
I can definitely see that. But really, whenever it comes to other characters you meet, there's not too many, I would say. Again, you meet a lot of the villagers who, again, they just kind of set the plot point of they're the ones who are very superstitious and wary of supernatural.
Funny.
Oh yeah, she was super funny. We don't have any food. We have nothing that's hot.
So tea then? You have tea then?
No.
But I can make some.
Yes. Yeah, it's like, I feel like I think like one of the strongest things I could say about the film, since we're basically done talking about majority of the characters, since they're mostly one note. Although I got to mention this point, Frank Oz is in the film, which is super fun. And for fellows and peeps that don't know exactly who Frank Oz is, he is famously known for doing Fozzie Bear's voice. Did a lot of the puppets for the Muppets and other stuff like that. He also voiced like Sam Eagle on the Muppets. He also helped out with Little Shop of Horrors, the movie with Rick Moranis and stuff. I think he actually directed that movie specifically there. So he's not like one of the most popular people, but for me, it's like, oh yeah, I really like his work a lot. So it was like fun because
there's a weird Muppets cameo in the movie.
It is, and they're Kermit and Miss Piggy are credited in the credits as themselves.
Right.
So I found it funny because Frank Oz also is the voice of Miss Piggy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I also found it really funny, but Frank Oz is really only there for one scene, although I feel like he makes the most out of it.
His character doesn't make any sense either.
No.
There's a few side characters in there that I don't really want to get into in this section, but like that I just really didn't like.
Oh, really?
And he's kind of one of them. I was just like,
really?
I was like, what? He
I
never comes back. He's like,
no, it was just
no
funny,
just
like, hi.
I couldn't. That's that was also one of the scenes where I couldn't tell. Like, is this movie like supposed to be silly or is it supposed to take itself serious?
I think it's both.
Yeah, it's both. But it's. Mm-hmm. I don't know why. Some of it felt like I was watching The Room. You know, I was like, is this movie like supposed to be dumb or like does? There were moments where it definitely was self-aware, but then there are other moments where it was like serious. It was actually scary and stuff, and I don't know how much of that was intentional and like how much, and it just made me laugh at some of the parts that I wonder if we're supposed to be serious. There's one part in particular that I just could not stop laughing at that had a lot of violence in it. That we could talk about. In major spoilers, but
I think that's definitely a major spoilers one. Right. We do not.
I still thinking back on it, can't tell if that was supposed to be comedic or not.
I don't know, man. Because there was other scenes that were more subtle. I mean, I say subtle. It's not super subtle, but just a little subtle. But then there's that, yeah, and it's weird because it's definitely a horror movie, right? Mm-hmm. But there's people die in horror movies, and some of the deaths were scary and horrific, and some of the deaths were really funny, and I don't know if the funny ones were supposed to be. Yeah, no, it definitely was interesting, and it's funny because the first time I watched it, I remember watching it and being like, oh my gosh, but whenever you were laughing, it just like, you're with a friend who you laugh at something and are like, yeah, that is pretty funny. Now that I hear the laughter, I can totally understand that. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that is super crazy. But getting back to what I was talking about is I think one of the strongest things, in my honest opinion, about the movie, even though the characters are flat, is the overall script. I feel like there's a lot of good lines specifically that are very quotable and stuff specifically. I think it's like, because like story wise, again, like I feel like it's good, wouldn't change anything about the story. Goes through characters could definitely have more depth, but I feel like for the story that's being told, it does fine and everything. But I feel like the characters' dialogues, while sometimes it can be more like I'm just telling the plot right now, there's a lot of like fun lines. Maybe we should move on to the mid spoilers. Yeah, let's go through no spoilers whatsoever, like zero spoilers going through. I felt like the use of music tracks was fun. Blue Moon played a lot throughout the film. I thought the music mixing was awful. Really? I thought it was really bad. I might be biased because I like the song Blue Moon. Well, I like the song too. I just thought it was almost exclusively played too loudly and at inappropriate moments. I will say the last time you hear it is definitely it was the first one. I was like, wow. Wow. So I will say that one, but it's like one of those weird things where it goes so far that somehow I like it, if that makes sense. I can see that. It just does a full circle. Yeah. Something like that. So I think, because I agree. but I wouldn't change it.
But okay, so you agree, but you liked the effect, because I thought the effect kind of fell flat. Like if they were going for that, where it was kind of like shocking transition, you know what I mean? I thought to me it just, and if it felt that way to me, I think I would like it too. But,
No, I just think
felt inappropriate.
I think it's just more humorous than anything. Like I said,
Right.
because like John Landis, all the films I made, they're all comedies.
Right.
So that's what makes this kind of a unique film overall there, specifically. So it's definitely interesting to see that. But music, it's just good songs overall. I wouldn't say it was the most effective and stuff, except for like, I think it's the second time they played Blue Moon. I feel like it's a good callback to the first time you hear it. But anyhow, but other than that, the very last thing, and I'll talk about this more in maybe major spoilers depending on the context. There is special effects that are implemented, not a whole lot, but a few, done by Rick Baker. Very, very well done. I really liked it a ton. It was used sparingly, which I think also helps add to the effectiveness of it overall. Major fan of it, so major kudos to Rick Baker. In fact, I actually got to see one of the effects at Universal Studios in Orlando at the horror makeup show stuff specifically, and they talked about it. And so in case you've never gone to the show in Universal Studios, highly recommend it. But I won't talk about what that effect was specifically, but it definitely good. Good.
Yeah, I thought a lot of them were excellent. There are definitely a couple scenes that I'd like to talk about in the other spoiler territories that I thought were really well. But I also thought there were some that did not. I'll just say did not stand the test of time. But there's definitely more I could talk about that was majorly disappointing to me the first time I watched it. Let's see. Is there anything? I think it's so hard to say like very light spoilers, because I feel like you have to get one major spoiler from the beginning out of the way to talk about the rest of the film. So overall, we'll just leave it at a blank there, specifically for people that don't want to be spoiled there. Would you recommend people go watch this film? I don't even know. I could give you my answer, but I couldn't even give you the reasons for my score.
Yeah, so I guess we'll probably not do scores.
Okay,
we'll do it after mid spoilers. We're trying to do
just recommending people go watch it. Yeah. If you don't mind some raunchiness and some like graphic, because there is a lot of graphic. They're even language. It runs the gambit. There's dong, there's boobs, there's gore, there's, if you don't mind any of that stuff in a horror movie, and you're looking for something that's equal parts, like, funny, like, laughable and scary, then, yeah. I do enjoy the setting at the beginning. I enjoy the premise and the plot overall, and I do think it's more of a fun one than some of the past few that we've been watching, that you could sit down and watch and not have to pay that close attention to or anything like that, and have a good time. Yeah, I would not recommend it. I would, if you're looking for a specific type of movie, because it is a movie from the 80s. Not everybody wants to watch an older movie that might not have had the highest budget. Sure. But if that's what you want to watch, I would say go for it. It was fun.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I came from and after watching it a second time, I was curious. It's one of those films, like, how there's some films that's like, oh, it gets better every single time and stuff. Yeah. This is like a film that's like going to be like stays the same, maybe a little bit lower, but still hitting that mark.
You know what it reminded me of in terms of quality and entertainment both?
Yeah.
It reminded me of Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
Yeah, I can see that.
I don't think that movie is a good movie, but I watch it all the time.
Oh, dude! Like it is like a guilty pleasure to watch the prequels
because it's fun. It's a good time.
No, exactly.
Anyways,
American Werewolf. My personal recommendation for it is, if you have not seen it and looking for something new, definitely is worth a stop by. Again, I would say it does have scary moments, but it's not like, oh my gosh, pure, terrifying, horrific, unsettling. Because I would say even the lighthouse just gives you that uncomfortable feeling all the way throughout.
Oh, yeah.
This is just kind of like a kind of
They give you a lot of jump scares.
Yeah, for sure. But there is a lot of just fun, 80s comedy vibes specifically, but not like the bad comedies of the 80s. Some of them, like more of the classic ones, I feel like, where I enjoyed it there.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, it's not like, makes me die laughing there, but there's a lot of good bits, especially the zoo. I love the zoo. So good. Anyhow, so overall recommendation, yeah, definitely watch it if you haven't. That's all I really can say specifically about it is I like it. Definitely check it out if you can. I know it's streaming on the Peacock.
My peacock.
There it is again.
Yeah.
Mid spoilers. The reason why we've been dancing around stuff and having to do stuff vague is the fact that pretty much at the beginning of the film, Jack is killed by a werewolf.
Yeah.
Specifically.
Right away.
Yeah. So whenever that happened, were you surprised by it?
I don't know that I was super surprised. I'm a little surprised because they did have good chemistry and they were setting it up to be like these are the two characters or whatever. But I wasn't that surprised because the title of the movie was like American Werewolf in London. So I was like, one of these guys has to turn into a werewolf because they're the two Americans in this situation.
Yeah.
And they also have to end up in London somehow. So, like, those are the two things in mid-spoilers I wanted to talk about.
The title.
Yeah, because, like, as much as I love the scene in the beginning, you don't really spend a whole lot of time in that village or in the moors or backpacking across Europe. I thought that would have been a much scarier time. You spend it in London and, like, in Piccadilly Circus and stuff, which is not particularly scary. And the way they present it's not that scary either, but...
Yeah, so... Basically, whenever the people being superstitious hear the howling wolf, it definitely overall helps to set the mood and just like the shiver that goes collectively through the pub there specifically is well done. Although you did actually mention one point, because whenever they decide to kick the Americans out because they're like, we don't want you here, you're outsiders.
Right.
They tell them to stick to the road, and then they don't stick to the road.
Right. And mind the moon or whatever.
Yes, exactly. And it was one of those things I never noticed the first time round, that they just directly walk off the road. It's not even like, oh, got to take a leak on the side.
And there's no prompt. They just are just like walking down the road. And it makes no sense either, because they leave and they're freezing and they're like, we'll just find an inn at the next town we can find. The townsfolk told them to stick to the road. Everything would point to, you probably want to walk on a road if you want to find civilization. And they just like walk off into the field. And it is raining too. It's pouring down rain. And like, I would get if they were like, let's find some cover or whatever. But they just walked into an open field.
Yeah, where there's nothing. And you don't have a reason for it either. Yeah. They just walk off and they're like...
The reason was to progress the plot.
Yeah, definitely. But watching it the first time, I felt like... Overall, I really like the way that they set up the werewolf attack, killing Jack specifically. Because here's the thing, like, you usually see, like, the friend and stuff specifically, like, try to save them from whoever's attacking. But David just hauls it, which... I don't blame him. There's a big giant wolf. It's just instinctual fear taking over.
The part that I didn't buy, because I completely bought that. Fight or flight, right? He chose flight and just like left his friend behind. And I was like, okay, that's kind of shitty of him, but all right. The part I didn't buy is whenever he stops after 30 seconds and turns around and is like, oh no, David.
Yeah.
And then like runs back, and then he gets mauled by the wolf too. It's like, what'd you think was gonna happen? If you're gonna fight off this wolf that was attacking him, you probably should have turned around in like the first 5 seconds. But,
yeah, for sure. But I did like how he went back. Like, he just had that sense of remorse, like, oh man, I can't do this. But I mean, I think his friend would have definitely been still dead, because that werewolf was tearing into Jack like nobody's business. Like, blood is spraying everywhere. It is a bloodbath. I do like
that you didn't like get a great look at it, because the main character didn't get a great look at it either, like David didn't.
Yeah.
But you knew it was like a wolf of some kind, and obviously you knew it was a werewolf, but like you didn't get a great look at because there are different forms of werewolves. You know, there could be like the two-legged, like
Mhm.
hairy man. It could just be Hugh Jackman, or or it could be like a big ass wolf. And this was like a big ass wolf, but you don't really see it in full until later. But
I definitely agree with that bullet point there overall. And I do like, because this whole film sets up the idea that they don't explicitly like confirm stuff. Like, they make stuff look like something and then it changes. Because one of the things that's interesting is after he like is going back for Jack to try to save him, and then the wolf turns to him and strikes him down, is about to kill him, but the village people decide they had decided to go out and save them, and they shoot him. David looks over expecting to see the wolf and just sees a man bleeding on the ground.
yeah, just like a naked dude. with
Yeah,
gunshot
exactly.
wounds in
And
him.
then he just passes out. And whenever he wakes up in the hospital, they're like, "Oh yeah, the villagers reported that you got attacked by some lunatic."
Yeah.
Crazy stuff. And so then you're wondering to yourself, okay, is this actually, a real werewolf, or is this going on inside his head overall, or something like that there specifically? At least it builds more upon that afterwards, because they do play on the psychological effect, even though I'm sure you were just like, yeah, werewolf, easy,
Yeah.
werewolf money.
Well, like, yeah, obviously, werewolf. The part that bothered me was that nobody seemed convinced at all, like, not even the police, not even anybody, that it could have been a regular wolf attack, which is what he says in the beginning. He was like, it was like a wolf, and they were like, no, but he has like claw marks all over his body.
I think they just said that only because like the people had reported it was a man, and also it'd be like, no, this is like stronger than just a wolf.
Yeah,
There, like the sheer power to do it.
even that, just you wouldn't at least look at the type of the injuries and talk to the guy who said it was a wolf and be like, I can see where you're coming from. The police report says otherwise, so I'm going to stick with that. But I at least get why you're saying this, because you have bite and claw marks all over your body from an obvious animal. But okay.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. But I do, even if you don't buy it entirely, I do like the fact that they do question it more being a psychological thing.
Yeah.
Overall, definitely makes for a more interesting film. Specifically there, especially whenever it comes to David's dreams, it definitely plays more psychological, both for David himself and the viewer, as the viewer's brains is having a hard time comprehending some of them.
Because he wakes up in the hospital, right, and he's got to be there for a while to tend to his wounds or whatever. Although he's been there for 3 weeks already. I don't know why they keep him there for longer. But whatever. And he has these dreams that, like, obviously the film doesn't reveal to you that it's a dream until after the dream is over, because he's having these dreams and he's like, they feel so realistic. And there starts to become a sort of crossover between like what's dream and what's reality.
Yeah, and you don't really know until it does something blatantly out of left field.
Right.
There overall. So, because one of the interesting things that I really like that you don't see too many horror films focus on is the fact that there's a moment where, David's recovering a lot, and then Nurse Alex has been kind of slowly befriending him in a hospital and just reaching out and just trying to get him feeling better. And so one morning, whenever David wakes up to eat his breakfast, he sees his good old friend Jack standing there all mauled up and everything.
Yeah.
And so that his introduction, which by the way kills me because it's him that says like, "Hey, are you going to eat that toast?" And he's like, "Get the fuck out of my room." Yeah, that's what I was talking about. That's like just one of my favorite just reveals, just, "You're gonna eat that toast." And so it brings up an interesting bullet point, because I feel like the relationship they have is same but not, if that makes sense. Like, it's vaguely familiar, but it's also different from how it was whenever he was alive, specifically. And so whenever it comes to talking about it, he brings up some quandaries about, potentially if David doesn't do the right actions
Right.
that horrible consequences will happen.
Right.
So I think it's kind of an interesting aspect to see film do specifically. The last time I saw something like this was in 2017's The Mummy with Tom Cruise.
Really?
And
I didn't watch it because it didn't have Brendan Fraser.
there's not much to find in the movie, gotta be honest. The Mummy's design is cool. That's it.
Gotcha.
Yeah. That's my review of The Mummy. Good night, folks. But this is done immensely better to where, like, it's kind of interesting to see the overall effects and situation that's going on. And then it also questions, like, okay, is he actually a ghost, or is this playing in his head specifically? And it's like a sense of remorse overall. So I thought that was a very interesting aspect to add to the film. So I think it helped add, like, a certain uniqueness to
It's like
it.
some Hamlet ass shit, you know?
Yes, Hamlet. So I definitely feel like it was interesting to see the character of Jack come back, but instead of just, I mean, he's still a friend to him, but he's also a forewarning about what is to come unless he takes certain actions.
Which is, you know, in traditional folklore, also the what ghosts typically do. Even think about, you know, the Scrooge McDuck movie.
Christmas Carol?
Classic Dickens story. Yeah, ghosts come to forewarn of things that are to happen, you know, unless actions are taken. That happens all the time in British literature. So
yes, exactly. And so one thing I will say is that the reveal of Jack, like, the way he's torn up, it's so brutal, but it looks so good. Like, he definitely does look like he's just been mauled.
Right.
Specifically, not Darth Mauled.
Star Wars time again.
Yeah.
You thought this was a horror movie podcast?
Star
Wars, baby.
Poppin the Star Wars.
Let's talk about Jar Jar.
Yeah, man. Let's talk about our character dive into Jar Jar video essay.
He's a Sith Lord.
So I felt like that was well done, and again, as shallow as it may be, I do think I like seeing the romance bud between both Nurse Alex and David. Like, it's just like, it's cute.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way.
It's a romance plot.
Yeah.
You can guess exactly how it's going to go, but that's fine.
Yeah. No, nothing wrong with it. It just makes it fun, kickback, easy, enjoyable.
It's a movie focused on the male gaze, so they had to give David a nurse that would let him plow.
No, I feel like the smaller moments are fun. Like, one of my favorite parts of it is whenever Nurse Alex this is like one of the first times where she's talking to David, and she brings the food into him, and he has the headphones, and he keeps being like,
putting the headphones back on.
Yeah,
whatever, bitch.
Yeah, doing that. I think that's just a fun film. I mean, fun film. I think it's a fun idea. There's, like, small fun ideas that they implement into the film, and so it just makes it like, oh, I like the way they did that. That's fun. Specifically, like, I love the amount of
I'm just thinking about, like, there's, like, a moment, like, right after David comes and he's, like, ringing the alarm or whatever, and, like, the nurse runs into the room, and he's terrified, and his first thing is to just kiss her, just, like, make out with her, and then push her back, and she is not even alarmed by this. She was just like, yep, all right. Are you okay?
I think she definitely had a peak interest in him.
Yeah, but even if you're interested in somebody, if they're, like, screaming for their life and then they just kiss you, I'd still be like, bitch, what the fuck?
Yeah, be like...
Also, if it's my job
are you high?
to take care of you, like, imagine if that was, like, a teacher and a student or something, you know what I mean? It crosses lines. You're not supposed to do that as a nurse.
Yeah, there's definitely some stuff that is probably against code, but who knows, maybe it's different in the UK.
Yeah, maybe they have different rules.
You know, if you need to go out with a patient, have a little wank, you know, no problems here.
Give it a little wank.
Just be sure you're back in time, right?
I mean, her boss, the doctor, I guess.
Dr. Hirsch.
He definitely didn't mind when he found out later that he was at his flat. You know where this patient was? Like, yeah, he's at my flat. Okay.
Right.
Well, great, go get him.
Yeah, definitely kind of skips logic on how stuff goes there. But I also feel like just having David like actually spend time with someone in the flat and stuff, it's a nice change of scenery overall.
No, I agree with
So
that.
yeah, it definitely more fun and
definitely-
allows more opportunities to explore
They
London.
definitely needed to get David out of the hospital somehow, but keep him around the same scene of all these characters, and that's how they did it. And I thought that was fine. But.
So that was definitely a leap of bound there overall, but yeah, I definitely like just seeing the characters kind of go interact, because like I said, there's a lot of fun moments that David does. Specifically, it's mostly him that does quirky stuff. Again, Alex is pretty straight and narrow on
She's got to take care of him. And they need somebody to take care of them.
And then whenever it comes to exploring the mystery, I do like how, for the most part, it's kind of like one of those things that it's not heavily investigated. It's just lightly pondered on and stuff. It's mostly Dr. Hirsch who does exploring, because
he does it at the worst possible time, by the way. He's like,
yes.
He's like, get the fuck out of my hospital, and then once you're gone, I'm gonna see if you're really a werewolf. Suddenly, now I believe you. But
yeah, no, I totally get you. But I again, there's stuff that it's like one of those things like you could criticize it, and I'm like, you're not wrong, but I still find it fun.
Yeah. No, none of this negates the fun factor. Just like I can shit on how all of the fucking robots just die after you destroy one spaceship in Star Wars Episode 1.
Oh my god.
It's a really stupid fucking Phantom Menace moment. I can shit on the kid that plays Anakin all day. Doesn't mean the movie's not fun.
Now this is pod racing.
I can spin. That's a neat trick. Just takes down the entire.
All right. We're gonna bring this back in. I feel like the mid spoilers is surprisingly a lot more shallow than what I thought it was going to be.
The two things I wanted to talk about, was the change of scenery mostly, and the death of his friend and coming back as a ghost.
Jack. I felt like that was very effective, and talking about it. Although, like, what did you think about his? It almost seemed like his personality changed a little bit.
Oh, it changed a lot. Like their dynamics stayed the same, but his personality changed a lot because he got mauled by a fucking werewolf, And now he's like a ghost to be like
it was just kind of more morose.
Yeah.
Which I guess it would be pretty depressing to be like, I'm a ghost.
Flesh cut open and all his teeth hanging out and shit.
Exactly.
Looks like he's been mauled by a wolf. And
but yeah, this is like a weird state where we already kind of gave a recommendation, dived a little bit deeper to mid spoilers, and now we're going to, I guess maybe talk about any pros and cons. But I feel like you've hit a lot of the points already, unless there's any you have before big major spoilers.
No, I mean, I think I got that.
No, I think definitely hit the bullet points. Let's see the number. Let's roll out the number. Yeah, let's roll the numbers.
All right, let's get the numbers, folks. I kind of, just to recap my sort of criticisms and dive into it, I thought a lot of the characters were flat. I thought some of the side characters were kind of shit. The story was fine, the plot was fine, the pacing was pretty good. Music design, awful. Sound design generally, though, pretty good. Werewolf sounds and all that. Oh, yeah, that was cool. It was creepy. Setting in the beginning, great. Setting for the rest of the movie, sucked. And yeah, I thought the script writing in general, most of the dialogue that wasn't between just the two friends and everything, kind of bad. Pretty bad, actually. And with all of that in mind, I do think it was fun, though, and it was funny, and it had some zingers, and it had some really funny moments that I can't tell if we're supposed to be funny or not, but it doesn't matter because it's still funny, so that still adds to my score. So overall, I'd give it a 4 out of 10.
Okay, so on the same level as Halloween.
Yeah, it's on a Halloween level. Very different things that it got right than Halloween. Yeah, Halloween I thought had terrible pacing. This I thought had great pacing. But Halloween had a better villain, I thought, in this one. And I thought they handled certain things a little bit better. But Yeah, it's probably the same score I'd give The Phantom Menace, but I like that movie too. So
Yeah, I'll go ahead and mention my rating now that we've gone on another Star Wars tangent. I was not prepared for this whatsoever. I had fun watching this film again. Watching it a second time round, I still enjoyed it. I don't know if it was one of the things like, oh, it's even better the second time round. You know, like there's just films like you could just keep watching over and over. This is like one that's like tapers down a little bit. It's like initially I rated it higher. Like I rated it an 8 out of 10. I was just like, man, I really like the stuff they did with this film. I feel like it has such a unique vibe to it. I like it a ton. But in watching it a second time round, it wasn't so much like, oh, it's slower or anything else. It's just like, yep, it's doing all the same beats. You know, it's like whenever you have a really good sandwich, you're like, man, the sandwich is really good. And then like the next time you have it, it's exactly the same, but just like maybe it came out a little less hot or whatever, and you eat and you're like, yeah, it's still good. You know, I think that's the equivalent of watching this film again overall. It's like really enjoyable. So not sure if I will bring it down to a 7 or an 8 still. Like if it was an 8, it'd be like 8.0001 and stuff.
Just a little bit above.
Yeah, just barely above an 8 there, possibly. I mean, maybe I could see it going down 7.5, but it's like still that range for me where there's a lot of stuff I enjoy about it. I really felt like the charisma David had, even though it was very unrealistic at some points, like some of the jumps he has specifically. He's just a fun character to watch.
Yeah, I'd give him that.
There, I mean, I wouldn't say he's like, oh, classic character, like along the lines of like other horror protagonists, which maybe we'll watch later there to talk more about.
He feels like a National Lampoon protagonist.
Yes, I can.
I'm glad you mentioned that he wrote this.
Yeah, I definitely I think that's the best way to describe it. Definitely charming, but I mean, again, not a lot of character depth overall. So again, it's like a film that I'd enjoy watching every now and then, so I'm happy I have the 4K copy of it. It's a really sweet edition of it. So, yeah, I enjoy it there, but there is some stuff that I do have grievances with, which I can't talk about in major spoilers, that definitely knocks it down for me. So, without further ado, ladies and germs, please feel free to exit out of the episode if you do not want to be majorly spoiled about stuff, because this is like no holds, no nothing.
We're talking about the end. We're talking about his affair with the old lady on the tram. Can't believe they put. I'm just kidding. That didn't happen.
No, I was surprised because I was like, oh man, I thought you were about to go straight to spoilers. So Aaron's probably going to fire off a spoiler.
Surprised they showed a red rocket. I mean,
yeah.
I know he was a werewolf, but
Right. So,
right then.
Yeah. So why don't you talk about one of the biggest spoilers? Because I feel like you've been holding on to one that you've been wanting to just talk about.
Which one? The fact that he's a werewolf? We kind of
yes.
talked about. I mean, it's kind of in the title.
Yeah, because like they dance around the idea of like, oh, is he not? Because he has a lot of these dreams and stuff. Some of them alluding to the fact he's a werewolf. Other ones, not really.
The other ones were wacky.
Yeah. So we'll talk about the werewolf. So whenever the second moon comes up, it's confirmed he turns into a werewolf there. And so that's the transformation scene I saw at Universal Studios. It was the part where like his face stretched forward, creating that snout. It actually showed how it did it there specifically. Really? Yeah. That basically it was like a rubber face and then like this mechanism that just pushed out there. And so like seeing like the transformation scene is one of the best, if not the best werewolf transformation scene I've ever seen, because it's not like just one of those like like after a few seconds they ponder on it for a long while. You get to see everything.
That must have taken a long time too, because it's not like this is 81, right? There's not like they CGI that shit or sprinkle up a little, touch this up, or it was all practical effects, and it was like a minute and a half, 2 minutes of transformation.
Oh yeah, no, it's crazy the stuff they did, like showing his hand stretch out and like his body contort and grow hair, and just seeing like slowly like his face change. Like it was very impressive. Like, seeing that around, I'm like, yeah, I could see why people talk about this scene specifically.
Yeah.
Like that, I think that's the golden scene.
I thought it was well acted too, which is
Yes.
I can't say that a lot of the scenes were well acted by Mr. David there, but that one was really well acted.
Yeah, no, he felt like he was in genuine pain.
Yeah.
There, so that was like well done. So I felt like that scene is probably the best scene written, just because, again, you see him have like this normal day where he's just wandering the flat, like, oh, what to do, and he's like, not hungry, still not hungry.
But that was one of the parts that I thought was really ham-fisted too, because like he was not hungry in the hospital and all that kind of stuff, and like that, and he's having these dreams about feeding on people as werewolves or whatever. That I felt like was appropriately subtle. I thought it was really inappropriate whenever they were just like playing all British music in the background, and he's like opening the fridge in this montage. He's like, I'm not hungry. I really would love to eat some people. I thought that was just like a little like, you could have just showed him opening you didn't have to say it out loud. He's like talking to himself as if like, this is what I'm demonstrating right now, audience. I'm like, could have just left that out. Guys.
Yeah, I just find it to be like one of those uncharacteristic things you see characters do in movies.
Yeah. I'm just going to narrate what I'm doing.
Yes, exactly. And so you have that, and then not really a lot's going on because there's no like scary music or anything really. He's just like kicked back reading a book as you see the full moon.
They're playing like Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah, they start playing a
soundtrack.
Blue Moon and stuff like, there, and then you just see him just scream this horrific scream. He's like, "Why is it so hot?"
Yeah. And
like,
they did see a little moment there where he opens the door and he's like, "Ooh, it's a little toasty," but I thought that part was fine. Yeah.
No.
And then getting into the the transformation, that was great.
Yeah, that was like some of the best effects I've seen, especially whenever it comes to transformation, stuff like that. So Rick Baker just hit it out of the park in that department there. But can I just talk about something?
Yeah.
This is probably the biggest criticism I have of the whole movie potentially.
Okay.
Is the fact that whenever they do reveal the werewolf looks so goofy. It just looks like looks like a were-Pomeranian. There, with how fluffy it is there, and just seeing a walk, it just looks so unnatural. Like its body is staying in one place while its legs are Gmod flailing.
I definitely thought that didn't stand the test of time, but I also didn't mind it that much because I was like, it's old practical effects. They, they're gonna look goofy, but it did look goofy.
No, and I was so disappointed the first time I saw it. I'm like, this is the werewolf, because I saw like clips of the transformation scene before. And I'm like, oh man, he must look crazy as a werewolf, and he just looks like this weird mammal, walking around there, which maybe I'm just used to like the upright, more humanoid werewolf looking thing specifically, and maybe I have an attachment to that, but even then I just felt like it's such a weird looking creature because it doesn't, I guess it beats a regular wolf just like doing that. It's like its own weird creature, but just seeing it, I was just like, man, this is just goofy. Like they had so much build up to it, like, talking about it, because you only see glimpses of the werewolf, and then once you see it just fully there, it's just very goofy.
I feel like that's often the case in monster movies where they hide the monster for a long time, and then once you see it fully revealed in the full light, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Like alien movies especially too, it's like then you finally see the alien and you're just like, really?
Yeah, that was the build up there overall. But that was one of my biggest grievances, is that I felt like for how much work they put into special effects and everything, especially seeing Jack decay every time he appears and stuff, like how more like haggard and decrepit he looks. I guess I was just very disappointed with how the wolf looked overall, specifically there. So that was like one of my biggest things. But one of the things we keep dancing around is the dreams, so I really want to talk about that.
Yeah, I don't even know how I feel about him. You know what I mean?
Some of the dreams I felt like were well done.
Yeah.
Like whenever it shows him running naked through the forest there.
That's the kind of thing
Yeah.
I would like expect out of this movie.
Mhm.
If you told me werewolf movie, he gets bit before he fully turns into a werewolf, he has dreams or whatever. It's like, yeah, I could see that. He has dreams where he's like running POV, running through the forest, hunting for deer or whatever. Yeah, I mean, he literally like bites the shit out of a deer's neck, but he's like full human in his dream or whatever.
Exactly.
And I was like, yeah, that's what I would think.
Yeah, and then it has like the other great dream where it's like he's wandering through the woods and he sees himself in a hospital bed, and then Nurse Alex checks on him, and then like he opens his eyes and mouth and he has like jagged teeth and like bright yellow eyes there.
Right.
I felt like that was well done. Some of the dreams like
Then you
I
just
fully forgot.
Yeah,
I fully forgot until it was coming up, and I was like, oh, I remember.
I feel like that was like a idea that should have been left for a different movie, but they weren't gonna make a second movie, so they were just like, well, we gotta squeeze it in here.
I just don't know how it follows up. Like, was there something in the book? Because the dream happens after Alex is like reading to him overall.
Yeah.
Because like they're not Nazi monsters, but they're definitely like World War II soldier as
They're like
fighters.
ghoul things.
Yeah, like they're ghouls that shoot up David's entire family.
Yeah,
and they're watching the Muppets there.
Right, he's having a dream where he's chilling at home and they're watching the Muppets or whatever, and these like Gestapo ghoul things kick open the door.
Gestapo ghouls.
And they literally have Uzis and they just mow down everything in his family, and it's just like violence, And so like I got that from like I see where they were doing this, writing the script and the director thinking like, okay, he's going down to these like more and more obscure, more and more off the wall dreams because he's getting crazier and crazier, right? And they all have to be really violent, and it's just gonna be like shock, horror, blah blah blah. I like, and he's like having trouble discerning what's reality and what's not. I got all that like conceptually, but the way it was executed was just like really funny. It's just like, Nazis kicking the door, shooting everybody up. They're shooting all the cups and the plates and everything. It's just like gratuitous violence. I was like, what the fuck?
Well, and that's not even a crazy thing, because like he wakes up from the dream and Alex is like, you all right?
Yeah. And then she opens the curtains and there's another Nazi there, and then
like kills her and then wakes up again. I'm just like, I don't understand the point. But it's just one of those wacky things that just adds to this film's uniqueness. Like, cause
that's another one where I could see the argument for like, it just wanted to reinforce to you, the audience, and to him that he doesn't know what's real and what's reality because he thought he woke up and he really didn't or whatever. But really, me, the audience, was just like, that was just a cheap way to slip in another jump scare.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, and that's pretty much all we see out of the dreams there overall. So that I don't know how to feel about that. That's one of the ones that don't know how to feel about it, but it's there, and I can't say I'm exactly mad that it's there.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat.
Yeah.
They kind of drop it immediately once he transforms into a werewolf the first time. Because he does transform into a werewolf twice, right?
Yes, twice.
Yeah, and it's like, I get why they dropped it, but also like, he was just there as a tool to build suspense and really didn't make any sense in the story after. Because, like, why would it just suddenly get dropped?
One point I definitely want to hit on with this film exactly is whenever Jack tells David he needs to kill himself.
Yeah.
How unique of a situation did you find that to be? Seeing your best friend that died come back and be like, yeah, you need to kill yourself. You're a werewolf. You're going to kill a lot of people if you don't kill yourself.
That's one of the things where, like, okay, the dreams and the Jack telling him to kill himself and everything, that's one of those things that, like, plot-wise, I thought was cool. It was a cool move. The way it was executed and done in the story, I thought was really dumb. You know what I mean?
Really?
The way it was written and everything, I was just like, why wouldn't Jack have a little more sympathy? And he is shown to still have sympathy in Undeath later on. Right, to be like, do you mind? This is my friend, whenever he's doing the whole porno like scene.
Oh, yeah, the porno.
Which, again, I feel is just another reason to slip boobies in the film. Although they did have some funny moments in there. But yeah, so he's shown to obviously still have some empathy for his friend and, like, still have that connection, but he knows that he needs to end the bloodline or whatever. Like, why wouldn't... There's like a bunch of other ways you could advocate for that. Like, get somebody else to kill you, suicide by cop or whatever, or like just get yourself locked up because you're gonna go crazy and then they will kill you because they kill werewolves or whatever. There's so many different ways that you could be like, buddy, you're a danger to society and to yourself, and you need to die. You could be like, kill yourself, and whenever he's like, no, I'm not going to kill myself, because who's going to respond to a person they think they're hallucinating?
Yes, exactly.
And just be like, oh, okay, I'll do that. Thanks, pal.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like, with what means while I'm backpacking across Europe, do you think I can just like kill myself right
Yeah.
now? While I'm in a mental hospital, or a hospital of any sort.
Yeah. Because that's a weird thing. Like,
you feel like he would still have the reasoning enough to be like, fine, if you're not going to kill yourself, lock yourself up or whatever.
yeah, at least have some remorse that,
Right.
like, look, explain the situation. Because that's where I feel like it's the same character, but not.
Yeah.
And so it's like that weird space overall there. So I wasn't sure how to feel about it. Not to mention, I'm surprised that in the situation that the parents didn't try to come over sooner, because if he's been there for 3 weeks or something, or
Yeah, he's been there. Yeah. Presumably for longer than 3 weeks without calling, because he was been passed out for 3 weeks in the hospital whenever he first wakes up. So there's probably like at least a week before that where he was traveling, and then like he's in the hospital for another week.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since he's been in contact with his.
which I guess that's Frank Oz's job, is just to show the legal thing of like, hey, just here.
He's like really not understanding of this guy's circumstances. Hey, you just woke up, blah blah. Anyway,
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, yeah, and like the fact that you wouldn't want your kid home soon after being released from the hospital,
And
whenever
his
best friend was murdered, and they apparently attended his funeral. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's kind of weird, like, whenever they don't have some stuff. So there is some stuff that does not follow in this film.
And it's not like they just didn't want to cast a cast of actors for his family, because we see them get shot up by Nazi Gestapo people in a scene that doesn't matter. So.
So it definitely was interesting, but I do, even though it definitely is kind of like one of those things, like, of course he's not going to kill himself. I do like that dynamic and that pressure of just kill yourself, dude. Just kill yourself.
It's like you're on an Xbox Live chat.
Yes, exactly.
Fucking kill yourself.
And so, and then once he turns into the wolf and surprise kills 6 people there, I also thought it was a very strong scene whenever he does go into the porno theater. That oh, by the way, he only goes to the porn theater because Jack motioned him like, hey, come on.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, apparently John Landis directed that porn video.
Really?
Yeah.
That was one of the funniest parts of the movie, actually, was when they were just watching the porno, and like the guy comes in and he's like, I told you never to do this again, or whatever. And the guy's like, you never told me anything. And he's like, not you, idiot. And he's like, I don't. And the girl's like, I don't know who you are. He's just like, oh, sorry, and like walks out.
It's so good.
I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like they just like already had boobies and dick in this film, so they were just like, yeah, let's put them in a porno theater.
No, for sure. And so I feel like it is a good scene though to like see the other victims and stuff, and then you just literally have, again, Xbox Live chat, the whole team hates you.
Right.
Just kill yourself, dude. Although I love how like the groups were different and stuff, because you have one that's like very stern.
Most of them were like upbeat, like the couple. Even it was just
the
like,
couple.
wow, you could drown yourself. Woo!
Yeah.
They were just like, we're happy, we're dead.
Yeah, they're just cheery people overall. They like to have fun. But seeing their deaths on screen, because you don't see them get attacked by the werewolf per se, but that they do. It's interesting, because I know that's where you had a lot of giggles.
Most of the deaths once he turns into a werewolf are really funny to me. Yeah, that first one was he attacks that couple in the backyard.
Yeah,
it's right. That one was funny to me because like they're getting mauled like, I don't know, a matter of yards away from this window where this other couple's expecting them apparently, and this woman's just looking out the window. He's like,
Yeah.
something's out there, John. And it's like, you could probably see this werewolf just mauling them.
Nah,
She's like,
it's nighttime. It's too dark.
It just seemed like incredibly British. It seemed like that literally the fucking Family Guy moment where they were like, "How do British people have sex?" And they're like, "Quite. I'm arriving." You know, that's exactly what it was like, just watching your friends get mauled by a werewolf and be like, "I think you should investigate. Something's out there."
I love how he has his glass with him the entire time.
He's just like sauntering out with his glass of alcohol and he's like, let me go walk out where I've heard terrifying screams of people dying. Just like, the missus. Anything's better than being around the old ball and chain, am I right? Please save me from this.
But
that one was funny. The guy he kills in the subway's funny.
Yeah.
Like, that part's actually terrifying until he trips on the escalator and just like comically flings a suitcase and is like, oh, it's like whenever you forget how to run in a dream and just like lays down and dies. Then it became funny. And then the funniest part of the whole movie.
Oh, whenever he breaks out.
It's at the very end. Yeah, he's breaking it through the porno theater or whatever, and there's this huge crowd around, and all these bobbies are like, "Stop trying to get yourselves killed!" Large audience of people.
Yeah, because he turns into the werewolf the second time.
Right, in the theater, and he kills a bunch of people, and they locked him in. And they try to keep him in. And he breaks out, and starts stirring people up, and people start fleeing everywhere. And people just like don't know, just forget how to drive in Piccadilly Circus. And it's just this long, like, minute and a half scene of like cars slamming into each other, and like this cop gets sandwiched between two cars, and like people are getting run over. It is just like the violence was so over the top that it was just could not stop laughing for like the entire thing.
Yeah, it was definitely very chaotic. It was more chaotic than what I remembered even.
Yeah, it was just like, imagine letting your dog off a leash and you kill fucking 20 people in a small intersection because of a
Beware the werewolf.
Like, he didn't have to
motor vehicle accident will occur.
He didn't have to bite a single fucking like he killed the inspector and like on the sidewalk, and somehow that killed like 20 extra people because of the ensuing ridiculous car crash.
Oh yeah, that was definitely insane. Seeing all of that. Oh man, yeah, that was a wacky, crazy scene there.
Oh, yeah, those were some of the side characters I really hated. Actually, the inspector and his like goofy sidekick guy that couldn't tie his tie.
Yeah, exactly.
That was where most of the failed comedy was for me. It was just that one fucking guy.
Yeah.
Like, I'll get to the bottom of it. Oops, he closed the door on me. Goodness.
Yes.
Like,
yeah, there's a lot of moments that should feel like they're adding character, but they don't. Like,
those guys were
whenever
useless. They should not have been in the movie. There's no reason they
they don't really do much. And then, like, even though I really like Nurse Alex a lot, there was some stuff that I just never felt like developed. Like whenever she talks to the kid in the bed who just says no. And again, I definitely feel like she needed more screen time to develop the character. I just felt like that scene didn't really.
That didn't do it. Yeah. They were trying to like develop her to like, she's this like Mother Teresa type caretaker that wants to make everybody better, and that's why she's invested in David, is because he's troubled, but he's also a handsome American or whatever. I just felt like they really ham-fisted some scenes where she's just like, I find you very attractive. It's just like, it's obvious that this was like a male fantasy. You know what I mean? Like they Mary Sued the shit out of this David character that becomes a werewolf, because it's just like, oh, I just have to be creepy in a hospital, and all these hot fucking nurses will want to fucking screw me and take care of me for months.
I think he's Jewish. How can you tell? Well, there's one way to find out. Oh my god.
I'm gonna slap the schmegma right out of his uncut dick that flops through half the movie. That's one of the more progressive things, actually, is you only kind of see a little bit of nipple. You know what I mean?
Not a lot of nip.
Not a lot of nip. But because there's a lot of male nudity, because there's like people transforming in and out of werewolves, and a lot of male ass, which I thought was great. But they weren't afraid to show little snippets of the dong here and there.
No,
especially when he's running through the zoo. That's one of the better scenes.
That's one of my favorite scenes. Waking up in the wolf enclosure where he's naked and just crawls out, and then he runs into that older woman. He's like, excuse me, you know.
And she's just like, right.
Yeah, right.
Off you go.
And then I just love him trying to get the kid to come to the bush. I'll give you £1, £2. Who are you? I'm the balloon thief. Why would a thief pay me for balloons? Oh my gosh. And he just comes out naked and just grabs it and just starts running.
I thought that part was extra funny because as soon as that happened, I like made a mocking voice of the kid and I was like, "Mummy, I just saw an American man steal my balloons." And then that's literally the exact scene that happens immediately after. And I was like, I should have wrote this movie. Apparently.
I know. And I just love that slick motion of seeing the couple on the bench and just seeing him run. Balloons flopping around and then him just snatching up the coat.
Yeah, she steals her coat, puts it on.
Yeah.
And I did think it was actually funny when he's like standing in line for the bus and
yeah,
and he's just wearing a woman's overcoat and nothing else. And
yeah,
people are like looking at him and he's like, "Nice weather we're having, huh?"
Yeah. No, I thought it was done. Again, I feel like the actor just does a really good job.
He does a good job in those comedic moments, I think. Yeah. I feel like where he really failed was in all the moments he was supposed to be serious.
Yeah, some of them. Although, like I said, the transformation scene, that was...
Yeah, that was good. Yeah.
But I feel like they purposely just nitpicked and really hyper-focused, like, okay, you have to really, like, sell this.
Right.
Specifically. Because the serious moments, he's kind of serious and not... That's kind of how I felt with Jack, like, talking to him. And because I felt like he was goofy and serious at the same time. Like, it was a weird mixture because you see him do goofy stuff.
Yeah, and Jack did a better job at it, I think. The actor that played Jack. Yeah, the actor that played Daniel, I feel like, whenever he was, like, in the romance scenes and in the scenes where he was trying to convince people that he was a werewolf, it's like he was given these lines that he could at least, like, ponder. I think specifically there's one in the hospital where he was like... he's like, "There's nothing wrong with my memory, you know, but maybe there's something wrong with my sanity." He delivers it like pretty much just like that, like he's fucking Luke Skywalker, you know? Like,
yeah, exactly.
And it's just like, ugh, you could have at least like waited and been, "There's like nothing wrong with my memory," and then just like gave it a pause or something and be like, "Maybe there's something wrong with my sanity," you know, where you could actually be like reflecting on it. But he's just like, it looks like he's cold reading off a script. And I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah, I could hear you.
I get it.
I do like one of the scenes. Like, one of the scenes that I like a lot is whenever he's just like, "You know what? I really feel good today. I don't know what it is. I just feel really good."
Well, that's because he got to be goofy again. Yeah. He's like macking on
well,
the
and not only that, but like the scene that follows up whenever he gets in a taxi cab is like, "Yeah, about the murders, Barbara Fleet Street it is." And then he just has this grim realization. There was people that got basically massacred last night, and I was warned I was going to kill people. Yeah. So then he does that, and then he's like walking away. He's like, "I'm going to get myself arrested." Yeah. And he's just like, you know, Alex is like, calm down. He's like, "Oh yeah, it's easy for you to say I'm a fucking werewolf."
Yeah.
I feel like that was well done.
I think so.
Like, it was a fun moment.
It was.
And then him trying to get arrested. The Queen is a man. Just crazy American.
Queen man. Winston Churchill is shit. Then he just runs the gambit. They were like, "We already got the R rating," so he just like says, he's literally like, "Fuck, shit, cunt."
yeah, going
Which
through...
one of these is gonna get me arrested?
Exactly. But there is one thing about the scene that does bother me, and it's whenever Alex is really trying, like, "Look, I talked with the doctor. He says he can help there. Why don't we go back to the hospital and stuff?" But I guess I understand Dave is just emotionally upset. He's like, no, it's nobody can fix this. You know, I have to deal with it there. Which I will mention, I like the third time Jack appears as a ghost, and he's just like that skeleton figure and stuff. And whenever he walks in, he's not immediately like, "I told you so." He's just like, "Yep, this is exactly what I mentioned." And he's like, "You really need to kill yourself, dude." But he's like so nice about it. He's like, "Dude, you probably need to kill yourself."
KYS, buddy. Yeah.
It reminds me of Bo Burnham's Inside. Like, you know, like, if I could just kill myself for a month. You know, just the way he talked about suicide there. I feel like that's the same way Jack talks about suicide to David.
If you could just kill yourself a little bit.
Yeah, but it's funny because you hear stuff like, "I can hang myself." It's like, Nah, because if you do it incorrectly, it'll just be painful and you'll suffocate.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like a weird thing where it's like he's sensitive to his emotions and insensitive
Right.
whenever it comes to mentioning it. So I wish maybe that would have been a little bit better fine-tuned for the film there. But overall, I felt like that scene was just good. I feel like there's a lot of good ideas they implement in this film there. Maybe not the cleanest execution, though, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Like, there's even, like, and I don't think this is necessarily a great idea, but, like, he calls his family and tells them he loves them, and then he goes to kill himself with a pocket knife and can't do it. It's like, I get why on paper that would look fine. The execution was just bad.
No, it wasn't a great execution there, which is disappointing, but, you know, I like the idea. One thing, speaking of executions, how about we talk about the ending?
Whoa, yeah.
So, I liked what they were trying to do,
Yes,
but it kind of was sloppy. Like, it really was, like, it just flies by. Like, as soon as he turns into the werewolf for the second time, it's just, basically the film's about to be over there. And so, I like the idea that basically, you know, Alex is trying to reach out to his humanity and stuff, see if he could call him back there, just hoping for anything. Because again, you know, she's fallen in love, has been smitten by him, and so she's like, let me reach out to him, see if the human side's there. And then turns out not so much, as he goes to lunge after her, all the people, which I do like that they talk about the silver bullet, because did you know about the silver bullet mythos about killing a werewolf with a silver bullet? Yeah. That it was just like, don't I need a silver bullet to shoot myself? And they're like, please.
Right now.
Yeah. So, you know, I'm glad they add that clarification there, because I would have the same question otherwise. But seeing him be killed in an alley there, and you see like the body, you know, there, and I also like it in the fact that I mean, clearly the people saw him as a wolf, right? Right. And then they just go up and they see him as a human, and then there's like a sorrowful moment for Alex there. And then
they don't linger on it all. They go almost immediately roll the credits.
Yeah, but it has the most, like, my brain couldn't comprehend what just happened, because you have this morose, silent moment of seeing our main protagonist be killed there, and then that's
like the main moment of like, okay, this is a really shitty music moment. Why would you do that?
I don't know. Like, I feel like, again, it's just that weird thing that I feel like John Landis took this as a horror and as a comedy somehow.
Yeah, and and you can do that, obviously.
No,
Scream, I feel like, is one of the ones
that
does that.
No, I felt like that did it
that does
better.
Great. Yeah, that did an excellent job of that. I feel like this didn't.
Yeah,
this didn't mix them well enough. Like, you can have those two elements, but it's like, and you can make it jarring on purpose sometimes. But like the way there's not a clear line between the two, and it just didn't work. Didn't work this time.
But yeah, so like the overall ending scene is another one that I have a problem with, because again, I'm like, I feel like, yeah, I'm fine with the main person being shot, because I felt like, again, it was just made abundantly clear he's just going to keep being a problem overall, and so it makes sense that they would.
I feel like it could be better. Can I pitch my better ending?
Yeah,
for this
sure.
movie?
I would love to hear it. Not I didn't mean that. Like, I like to see what you could come up with.
No,
this
I'd love to
masterpiece.
hear.
Yeah, no, I'm genuinely curious.
Okay, so this is one of the ham-fisted moments that I was like, okay, whatever, like, it's fine. That they're like in bed or whatever, and
Which time?
The time where they're talking, not the strangely elongated sex scene that could have been literally 4 times as short. Not that time, but they're talking, and he's worried about being a werewolf or whatever, and he's talking about the Wolfman, and he's like, no, the werewolf has to be killed by somebody who loves him, you know? And then, of course, they do the, like, I love you exchanges throughout the movie. And so, the nurse is probably going to kill him. And that's kind of how they wrote it, where she goes and reaches out to his humanity, he lunges at her, and then the whole firing squad behind her shoots him. but she obviously wasn't trying to kill him at all. She was trying to they set that whole thing up, and then they didn't really execute it at all, and not even in a way where like it would betray audience expectation. They just like tried to sort of technically slip it in, but it just didn't work to me. So the way I would fix that, right? Okay, you have the whole firing squad scene or whatever. Maybe there's something they set up earlier in the movie where it's like their special little spot or whatever, you know? And that's where she first says she loves him, or that's where he first says he loves her or something. And there's like a place of significance, right? And then they go past that, all this stuff develops. The werewolf breaks loose. They're looking for him. They can't find him anywhere. And she's like, I bet I know where he is. And she goes there and she tries to reach out to him, right? And does the whole scene again. But then you realize his humanity's lost. He lunges at her, and then she actually does like shoot him or stab him or something and kill the wolf. So she's actually the one that ends his life, and she's hesitant to do it, but she like does it out of self-defense, and then you could see her complicated emotion, and that would make her a more full and more realized character with an actually complete character arc, because she spent all this time being a caretaker of people and not one to resort to violence, and has always tried to become the one that, you know, to follow the Hippocratic Oath, and then she shatters that with somebody that she loves. Wouldn't that have been a more interesting ending? But
yes, no, I totally agree. I think it definitely would, because just having a SWAT team take out the wolf is definitely kind of anticlimactic,
right
there specifically. So I think that's also good. Plus, I had an idea while you were talking about it. You know, you talked about the villagers basically being like very, very not deep.
Right.
What if the first werewolf was only killed because one of the people from the village that was like a former lover or something like that, and the werewolf was only roaming around because the person didn't initially have the heart or guts to do that, but it is then finally broken down like, I can't keep letting more people die.
That would be so much more interesting.
Yeah, and then they allude to it more whenever Dr. Hirsch goes back.
Exactly. He goes, and that's the person in the bar that walks out with the umbrella or whatever.
Yes.
Is like, and it's like some
and
woman
that's why
or something.
He tells
Yeah,
him.
and they'd be like, I can't stand it anymore, and I had to kill him or whatever. And, you know, that would give more interesting detail and actually provide something to the story for Dr. Hershey's visit, because it really doesn't feel like it matters at all, because I feel like the audience knows. He knows this werewolf. He's not really getting confirmation here. What does it matter if the doctor gets confirmation of this? Because the doctor doesn't end up resolving it anyways, because he doesn't go back to the hospital. You know, it's like, it feels like it's a really like short-sighted plot point. But that would have made it so much more interesting.
No, I definitely think so. Like, that actually kind of made me excited. I'm like, yeah, I would have liked that, as opposed to just SWAT team comes in, you know, she tries and shoots it, which I feel like as own, it's fine.
It's fine.
Stuff.
Yeah. And you could say it would have been cheesy, yeah, but it has the potential for that way of ending to be cheesy, but the movie already gave all the cheese to you with the lovey-dovey stuff part. So, like, that was already in there. You should have at least seen it through, you know.
But no, I think that's definitely a strong point, so I would agree that would have been better.
Wow.
That idea there. So
well, let's remake the movie.
I know. Whenever you make the remake to An American Werewolf in London, the reboot, if you will, you'll definitely have to implement that.
It also would have been cool if, like, they also showed the weapon somehow beforehand.
Where
he was like, why do you have this? And she's like, oh, you know, my dad was really into folklore or something. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, because she has a collection of stuff like Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, Minnie Mouse,
and she has this huge library too.
Yeah. So I could see her having something like that. So that would also be a nifty point to contest there, because she also hears them talk about being a werewolf 24/7.
Right
there. So I think that definitely would have been a better point to play on, to maybe add more to her character a bit, as opposed to spending time with, like, you know, because obviously it's important you see her do nurse stuff, but I don't feel like it added that much stuff seeing it. So that's just overall thoughts. Was there any other points you wanted to hit on specifically, like any other stuff you felt like we haven't talked about? I know it's been like a weird segmented things where we fragmented it, mostly surrounding Jack's death there, because I feel like it's one of those things, like, it happens at the beginning of the film, but it also has a big thing. It's not like so much like The Ring, where it's like literally first 5 seconds there.
Yeah. No, I'm glad we kind of covered it in this tiered way where I can explain my interests and grievances in layers, because I think we covered it all that way.
No, but yeah, no, I think you definitely, raised some good points there, some good criticisms there, and so again, that's why watching this and kind of agreeing with you, I'm like, yeah, it's not the best. That's why it's like, it might actually now be from 8.0001. Now it's going to be like 0.7999999.
Barely
yeah,
below
8.
the threshold.
Yeah, like, because I still enjoy it despite its defaults, because it has a lot of unique aspects to it, but I totally understand where you're coming from. It's not like I disagree, with that. I'm like, no, you definitely hit the points. I just feel like the film does enough unique stuff there. Yeah. Like, I just love the overall theme. Like I said, just seeing the slaughter lamb, like the painted thing.
I wish we spent more time there, because that was one of the stronger settings in the movie. But...
No, yeah, because once you get to London, it's fairly boring.
Yeah,
there.
Fucking London. You ever been to London?
Yeah, the most exciting part was the zoo.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think there's anything else I can really add to this review there. I know a tenth of it at the very least has been dedicated to Star Wars, if not 1/9.
Well, that's just the teaser to our future podcast.
I know. You'll have to tell me the podcast name and when it happens and when we recorded.
Poppin the Star Wars.
But yeah, so that's our overall thoughts on American Werewolf and London. Like I said, even though you rated low, you still recommend people watch it.
Yeah. I mean, it's a vibe for sure. If you are looking for like a Star Wars Episode 1 type movie, fun but bad, give it a whirl.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess with that in mind, we'll talk about the next episode. Now, I thought really hard about this next episode, because I knew at some point in another time we would come to this point where we've gone through, so far this has been our 19th film we have talked about here, Poppin the Scary. Wow. So yeah, 19 horror films there, and yes.
It's consent. I just gave it to all of you.
You heard it here, folks. Consent given by Aaron. You're welcome. I knew at some point we were probably going to watch a sequel.
Yeah.
And while I don't think this is going to start a spree of sequels like back to back now, I feel like this time it's appropriate that we're going to revisit one of the films we just watched and its sequel there. Okay. So that gives you, like, you have a 1 in 19 chance of getting it right there. Okay. So got that, but I'm also choosing it because this particular franchise is having a video game come out in the next couple of weeks. It's having a video game, so I feel like by the time it releases, it'll be around the time the video game does. Oh. And it is also in the 80s.
Okay, so the sequel's in the 80s.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The sequel is in the 80s. And to give you a last hint, it's a film that is one of the lower rated ones.
Is it Halloween 2?
It is not this time. It is not, but it is... I believe it was the film before Halloween. Let me just confirm with my list. It was the film before Halloween.
What did we watch before Halloween?
It's in between Hellraiser and Halloween. I'll tell you, it's
the third film we watched.
Yeah, then. The third film.
What was the third film?
And I think it actually might be our shortest episode.
It goes Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Hellraiser, something, Halloween. What's the something?
And
Friday the 13th?
Close again.
I feel like that was number 5, right?
That was number 5. That was number 5. It's so... it makes me happy we're visiting this film. And it is in... A location.
Oh, location. Thanks. That narrows it down. I'm so stupid. Is
Okay.
it Evil
Okay.
Dead?
It is Evil
Okay,
Dead.
okay, yeah.
It is Evil Dead. It's actually having a video game come out.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
It's Evil Dead 2, right?
yes, Evil Dead 2. So I feel like it's time to visit this sequel.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this is probably going to be the most interesting sequel out of all the sequels to analyze.
Yeah, I remember you saying a little bit about it when we talked about Evil Dead.
Mhm.
Just like that, it isn't really about like the forest and the cabin anymore, right? Or no, is it?
I won't give
Okay,
away too much.
okay.
I'll let you ponder on it
All
and
right.
stuff. But yeah, folks that have seen Evil Dead 2, you know that we're about to take another crazy trip back over to the cabin. So yeah, so thank you so much for listening to this episode of Poppin the Scary, and we'll see y'all again next time when we're Poppin the Scary with Evil Dead 2.
Whoa!
I feel super bad I led you on again, but at least you knew where you were going.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. You named every film around it there.
I just couldn't remember. Yeah, well, we watched third.
Yeah. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube, Castbox, or iTunes platforms to stay up to date when new episodes drop. To see what Aaron and I are up to, check out our respective Twitter accounts. For me, it is @ColeKirkVA, and for Aaron, it is @AnimalGameDev. Thank you all so much for listening to our podcast. We'll speak to you all again next time when we're Poppin the Scary. And I will, while I will never say, oh, it's better than the original trilogy, as sacrilegious as it is to say, I'd almost rather keep the prequels, which are not as solid films as the first three
Right.
films, just because how enjoyable they are.
Right. I feel like they're even a little bit more imaginative than the original.
Oh, yeah. George Lucas was having a heyday.
Well, yeah, because whenever he made the original trilogy, he had his wife making sure that he didn't do batshit insane stuff, and you could see him kind of going off the deep end in episode 6.
Yeah,
you know
because
what I mean?
everyone was kind of afraid to tell him no.
Right. And then by the time he goes back and he makes the prequels, he's divorced from his wife. He has a giant head. You know what I mean? Like literally and figuratively. He has a
Yes.
giant- and he's just like, yeah, let's make Gungans, and they fart all the time.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, George.
Yeah, because they're
Like,
just all yes men.
Yeah, he's a genius, so I guess let's let him do it. And then you still got a lot of that creative genius in there, but you didn't have any of the editorial oversight. Just said, George, let's not do this part. Like, let's just cut this part out.
Yeah. Lord, I wish he could have made the other trilogy.
It would have been a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I to be honest, I perfectly agree.
Yeah.
I people may fight me on it, but I wouldn't say they're going to be the best films ever made, but he would have made them fun.
They would have been fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of these films were not. Yeah. I feel like I could start a whole new podcast, and I have considered starting a whole new podcast.
I remember that we, especially because of your certain hatred of episode 9.
I fucking hate 9.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm up. The invitation's open. The door is open.
So I had a couple friends over maybe
Yeah.
months and months ago, like shortly after we had talked about that, and we were all drinking, and I was like, what are we going to do? But I'm going to put on episode 9, and I just hit record on my mic and just recorded our reactions to
Are
it.
you kidding?
No, I did it.
Oh my, you psycho. They
haven't been back to my house since.
I don't blame you. Was it a lot of silence or groans?
It was a lot of silence, and then just like bitching at the end.
Yeah.
It was there were several groans too, but it was just like I like reignited the trauma of one of my friends that was literally like #1 Star Wars fan, and then like
yeah, you told me about
he was there, and that was the first time he was watching the film since it was in theaters again, and he was just like, it's just like a dead inside kind of thing. Like he used to be the Star Wars guy, and then Star Wars episode
that
9,
just
man.
snuffed out the light, the flame.
He hasn't even finished watching The Mandalorian because he just hates Luke now because of the new trilogy. And he's like, I don't want to see him. And he also hates Boba Fett because the Star Wars community is just like full of Boba Fett fanboys, and he's just like, hey, Boba Fett.
I mean, he's not wrong,
He's just
but So I mean, I know we've derailed a bit,
Yeah,
but
we
I
know a
have to
little
know
bit.
right now.
Yeah.
How was it the second time round?
I feel like I was numb to certain things, so it was fine. This was right before the live slug reaction meme was going around. Have you seen it?
Yes, I've seen that.
And my friend Jordan actually pointed it out. He was like, they cut immediately to the shot of a slug right after the canonical gay. And my friend Jordan has this theme that this theory that they cut Rose out of all the promotional material and replaced it with the slug. Cloud is his name. He has an official page and everything. He's got backstory because of the backlash from episode 8, and Disney was pandering to racist women haters. Although I Rose was a terrible character.
She was poorly written.
She was terrible.
And it's not the actress's fault.
No,
who
it's
just
not.
got destroyed on Twitter.
Yeah, which was
Yeah.
awful. It's awful on both sides. You shouldn't have just destroyed the actual actress on Twitter. What the fuck, guys?
Mm-hmm.
Also, that was a terrible character.
Oh my gosh.
From a not good movie. I actually really liked episode 8 the first time I watched it, but there was a sinking feeling inside of me where I was like, it's just off.
Yeah.
I was like, there was a lot of good things about that movie. There's so many things that just and so I went and saw it again a week later, right, because I watched it right when it released, and then I saw it a week later, and I was like, well, that doesn't sit well with me. And then I had to watch it again because my family's watching it, and I watched it with them, and ever since then I was just like, that was a shit movie. I thought it was good the first time I watched it because it was the first time a Star Wars movie actually felt like somebody made a proper movie. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm,
It just happened to be set in the Star Wars universe. And I had some beef about it, about a little bit about the entire thing takes place in a spaceship really, and they only escape to a shitty episode 1 remake Casino Planet where they're trying to be fun.
Yes.
And it's just, I was like, Rose's character was bad, and there was a lot of cheesy lines. Power of love is what saves us. I guess I met you 3 days ago. Whatever.
Yeah.
But I really liked the character that what's his name? It's the Hispanic guy with the stutter who's the splicer in the episode 8. You remember that?
Oh, Benicio del Toro's
Benicio
character.
del Toro. Yeah. I loved his character.
He's so good
Yeah.
and so underutilized.
Yeah, and so I think that aspect of it just made me I like this film. And then even the fucking the lightsaber battle between Rey and Kylo was really cool.
Oh,
that
scene in the room was really
Yeah.
well
I
done.
was like, hey, this is cool. So all that was hyping me up for episode 8, but there's pretty much everything else was just I don't like how they did that.
I'm telling you, we could do a Star Wars podcast
We
and
could.
focus on just different aspects.
I'd have to rewatch the trilogy though. And I need to be really drunk to do that again. But we could do it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm up for it. Let it be known, I am up for watching the Star Wars.
We could
trilogy.
seriously do this every week, and
Heck, I'll buy all the films in 4K.
for-
We'll have the ultimate experience.
I'm serious when I'm telling you that I could talk about these same films and say something new about it every time about what I fucking hate about them.
Yeah.
And we could do this podcast for a fucking year. That's how much those films are awful.
That's
for.
perfectly okay. I'm used to repeating conversations, so it works out perfectly for the format. So that's surprising. I don't know what I'd rate the Phantom Menace. Maybe if we do an episode, I'll have to let you know what I rate it.
Well, the spoiler alert for that one, I give it a 4 out of 10.
Yeah. No, sneak preview.
Episode 2, though, that gets down into the depths of
Oh,
of my scores.
yeah. Although,
It's a bad movie.
I know we've talked extensively about Star Wars more than what I was prepared to,
Yeah.
but I remember hating Episode 2,
Yeah.
and then I rewatched it.
Uh-huh.
Not as bad.
I had the complete opposite.
Really?
As a kid, I really liked Episode 2 because I just remembered
Mm-hmm.
it being more about the Clone Wars and Count Dooku and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And whenever I rewatch it, it's mostly about shitty, rapey romance scene with Anakin and Padme. And I hate sand and I disliked it a lot more the more I watched it.
I don't know. Maybe it's fun with friends.
I think it has great moments. There's a lot of great moments, but it's kind of like my recollection of Episode 6, where I remember, it starting out. Luke does a backflip, jumps over the Sarlacc pit. They go straight to the Ewoks. It's a great time. Rewatching that movie, I realized there's like 30 minutes in the beginning that don't fucking mean anything.
Oh my gosh, it's literally just a flex.
Right, and then there's just like a really shitty, elongated Ewok scene. And
Oh my gosh, thank you.
And I was like,
for
oh man, this fucking sucks. I remember this movie being a lot better because in retrospect, because like remembering it, I just remembered the good parts. So I can do the same thing with episode 2. There's a lot of great parts in there. I love the Coliseum scene. I love the Camino planet shit, and just Obi-Wan being a detective, and all that's cool. But so much of the movie is not that, and it sucks.
No, well, it's funny because I'm happy you mentioned that because a lot of people are like, episode 6 my favorite. I'm like, cool. I like the part with Darth Vader in it. Yeah. All 20 minutes of it.
Episode 6 sucks.
Yeah.
They wrap it up well, but there's so much suck in that movie.
God dang, I just want to do a podcast episode and just talk about it. I have so much to say, but like just to add a controversial thing, I like 2 better than 6.
I could see that. And from just an enjoyment standpoint, yeah. They're both, I feel like, the weakest movies in their trilogy.
Absolutely.
So,
100% agree.
Yeah.